That's okay, I mean, that's fine. I'm gonna pop the door over here in just a minute.
Is it matter where I see it?
One, two, three, one, two, three, one, two, three. One, two, three, one, two, three, one, two, three.
Quiet day. That was fun.
you right now.
Syllabus real good at 10.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started with the work session for next week's council meeting. First, we would have approval of minutes, September 9th, 2024, 5 p.m. council work session, September 16th, 2024, 10 a.m. council meeting, September 16th, 2024, 9:30 a.m. council work session, and September 19th, 2024, 2 p.m. special called council meeting. And Mr. Faruqi had some comments on the minutes.
I do. Unfortunately, Mr. McMasters is not here today, and he's the one I was really hoping to be here to answer a couple questions. One of the things in there is a discussion item I brought up on September 9th about his decision to not allow public comments, and thankfully your decision to allow public comments, as we see during the agenda items. So first off, I want to say I appreciate that. At that meeting on the 9th, I know you were not here, Jacob, but I requested an update on Chief Pinion's plan. I know he's here today. I would ask that maybe that be something that we include in future events. On September 16th, so almost a week later, actually a week later, I questioned the timelines for the chief's plan. Since 19th of August, he's had this plan in place, still don't know what time. Received a great budget briefing by Mr. McMasters, very professional briefing. Demeester, I'm sorry. And have received nothing as of yet from our fine public employee. Of note, during the budget briefing, I asked for the P1, P2, copies of that. I got the P2. The P1 I also had put a FOIA request in to get that. And in that, for the police department, all it had was $600,000 for vehicles and for ranges, $60,000 for ranges. Nowhere in the priority one requirements was anything listed in his plan for training, updates, et cetera. The 19th September special called meeting where additional hours for green research came up, $40,000 additionally for investigation of DPD policies and procedures, presumably, I don't know, because one, the chief can't do that analysis himself, two, the Police Advisory Council could not adequately assist him, or three, the chief or the council liaison could not provide adequate oversight. I also asked Mr. Marks if Chief Renshaw was allowed to retire in good standing with his badge and gun. Mr. Marks.
That's a personnel matter with the police department. I'll find it. I'm sorry.
No, you told me that last time that you'd find out.
I'll go in and ask the chief, and I'll be right back. You go right ahead with whatever else you got. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. And I'll wait for you. That'd be great.
Go around there and talk to him.
And I'm grateful that department heads will hopefully stay through public comments as part of the information I gave you last time, and that there is a requirement for councilmen who have additional duties to fulfill those additional duties, like being in charge and watching as a liaison for planning council meetings, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have set public hearings. Ordinance 24-4594, approved zoning ordinance rewrite and zoning map. Set public hearing for Monday, November 4th, 2024 at 6 p.m. I don't know if anybody from planning is here.
Tommy was.
I thought I saw him.
I just saw Tommy.
Dane can jump in.
Good evening, council. This is to introduce the zoning rewrite to you. It will be introduced on October 7th, and the final vote will be November 4th. It is online right now. It's been on there since May 20th. The whole zoning rewrite is 500-something pages, and the map is there as well.
Okay. Did you have a comment?
Yeah. I haven't seen the maps. I did read through all the documents that are probably in that packet you all have. There's no maps in mine, or at least online. All of you have different roles and functions for planning: Metro Planning Board, BOZA, downtown redevelopment, historical preservation. All of this looks at what is the city going to look like over time. The zoning reg, as I read this, will require some new requirements to be applied, or will requirements in the new zoning reg be applied retroactively. So I have a house now
Typically, no. I don't want to say definitively because I'd have to confirm that, but no, typically things when zoning changes are grandfathered in. If there exists, like a sign ordinance change, for example, we wouldn't make everybody tear down their signs that were
Okay.
out of compliance.
It was a little bit unclear when you read through the document
Yeah.
when it takes effect.
Unlikely, but I can make sure that's not.
No, that's correct. It's not retroactive. It's like the council president said, it's grandfather. No, you get to keep doing what you were doing.
Okay.
prior to that.
Any oversight now over site plan development by city council? Because right now it remains solely within the planning commission. It's a board where Mr. Pepper is supposed to be in charge of that, and he has not been able to provide adequate oversight, in my humble opinion. Building inspection has no identified admin requirements in section 25-2.1. It's apparently convoluted regulation, which refers to several Chapter 7, 18 of City Code, Article 11, BOZA, and BOZA TRC. Who prepares the decision papers that go before the City Council?
I thought this was to set a public hearing.
Typically for it would go, it was planning does that.
Okay. So there may be some issues, because I've talked to the planning conference about, or planning commission about this, about having a vision of how all these impactful site plans will be impacting the whole of the city of Decatur for traffic, for rain overflowing, et cetera.
I think in regards to the agenda item, those are questions that we will have answers for. I don't know exactly what part of the zoning rewrite you're referring to, but.
Well, it's the part that's easiest to understand. It isn't convoluted by a whole bunch of stuff in there that talks through, here is the step-by-step process.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, in the first part of the process, though, is to, Mr. Freaky, is to set a public hearing, not to have a public hearing tonight.
Well-
Tonight is to set the public hearing.
That's fine, and you're right, but, typically in years past, what we've done is when we set a public hearing, we don't have the discussion, but since that's our practice now, I think it's important that the questions, even though we're just setting this, and we discuss issues when we say we're setting it, we do that at basically every meeting. So I think it's important that this is such a big thing for our city that we get any information, any questions that we can possibly have beforehand, even though we're just setting it.
Yeah.
I think it's important that he be allowed to ask any questions, because this is a huge change in our city. And so if you have questions, I would welcome those questions.
Let me put it this way.
And I would agree with what Mr. Jackson says, as long as you have the understanding that when we're at a work session and we're setting a public hearing a month down the road, that we may not have the answer. It's a good interaction of these are questions.
That's my intent.
And that's fine, but in the work session, that's part of that, is we're hearing from other people. You, outside the meeting typically is where that goes, but we may not have the answer tonight because we haven't, this is the first time it's being introduced. So.
And I don't want to do anything more about planning than I have to, but figure 25-2.3.1, step 2, says it's the neighborhood meeting. It lays it out. And it talks about mailing notices within 500 feet of a new development. In my case, I consider the road that I come down to see you all is on Central Avenue. There are 3 brand-new planned and in the process of being developed sites. I don't know, because I never got any notification that this was going to be planned. 500 feet is barely within the distance of each one of those separate planned communities. And there's nothing but agriculture everywhere else. So having a visibility to say, oh, by the way, Mr. Faruqi, in the next 3 years, you're going to have 500 new houses being built over there that are going to impact your community, including recreational facilities and traffic.
We have discussed notification and what the law says and then what's more appropriate. So it's a good question. We want you to be notified if it's going to impact you, but at some point, you do have to have a radius that you're notifying. But we have discussed notification and changes there. So.
Well, it's clearly stated.
And again, it does come before the planning commission in a public meeting and the council typically in a public meeting for like a rezoning.
Well, I've been to the planning commission meetings, and there is no forum unless, as I talk to them about the specific plat address.
But notification.
Notification is the issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I can make a statement to say, yeah, I do want that here, or "Oh, no, I don't, and here's why." Again, why don't we look holistically at all these things being affected, schools, et cetera, because right now it's just a stovepipe of information. There's a requirement for a neighborhood text, or there is no requirement for neighborhood text approval in this process.
Yeah. If you can just wrap up, we're at 4 minutes, but we'll have a lot of discussion around the zoning rewrite.
Okay. Again, if that was the case, it would guarantee some inclusion. And there should be something mandating that all of these neighborhood meetings be publicized. If it was publicized and I knew there was a meeting down the street from me, I could find a way to attend. The other issue in there is taking a look at enforcement. Right now, enforcement gives a lot of authority to the building code, which they may not be deserving.
Okay, thank you. All right, public hearings, Resolution 24-152, approve abatement of unsafe conditions at 2913 Leesdale Avenue. Public hearing was tabled September 3rd, 2024.
Good evening, I'm Jonathan Lowry, work with Community Development. This is my case. Josh is not able to be here tonight, he's with his mom. This whole process started in January of 2020. December of 2020 until now. Y'all tabled the process last month. On September the 3rd, September the 9th, she came and got permits, and as of 4:45, no inspections have been made.
Okay. All right, any questions? Thank you. Resolution 24-226, approve request for restaurant retail liquor license by Santa Ana Brothers LLC doing business as Marlin's Bar and Grill located at 2148 Beltline Road Southwest, Decatur, Alabama 35601.
Yeah, this was formerly O'Charlie's. It has been purchased, and now they're trying to open up Marlin's. They're requesting alcohol.
All right, any questions? Resolutions, Resolution 24-227, redirect ARPA funding from Pine Park to Parkway Park.
Before Alan speaks, I would, so if there's no conflict, there is nothing going back on Parks and Rec or them or Community Development. I requested this. It's something that's long overdue. We do need the funding still for Pines Park. The Parkway Park is actually, I don't know where it ever got the name Parkway Park. But it's a park that's on Gordon Drive just before you go over the overpass. And it is absolutely needed fencing around that because kids are playing kickball and things of that nature. It won't prevent a car from coming in there, but it will prevent a kid from running into the street if a ball runs into the street. So it was all about safety, and we've replaced the equipment at Pines Park recently in the last couple of years. So I think that safety is going to override the need for the things that we have in Pines Park. It's a safe environment in Pines Park, but we do need more safety at the Gordon Drive Park or Parkway Park or whatever we're going to call it.
Okay,
So
thank you.
that's where we are.
Any questions on that? All right, Resolution 24-228, authorize mayor to apply for Children's Trust Fund Family Matters Program.
Yes, this is just our yearly grant that we get for Decatur Youth Services, so we just asked your approval to make application.
All right, any questions? Resolution 24-229, approve community service and economic development contracts for FY 2025.
Good evening, gentlemen. Dawn Roniger, Finance Department. These are your standard appropriations contracts. You all approved the funding for that with the FY25 budget, so there's no new funding. These are just allowing the mayor to sign those contracts with those organizations in the community.
All right, any questions? Resolution 24-230, approval for Bagby Elevator Project Jail Lobby.
Hi, Stephanie McLean. I'm standing in for Kurt Johnson tonight. This is a change order to the original approval for the elevators. This would be for the new wall panel and door for the police department elevator so that everything would work together.
All right, any questions? All right, Resolution 24-231, approval for Flint Tennis Court demo and disposal.
Hey, good afternoon, council. So the background on this is, if you guys remember, several years ago, we had a resolution to fix all the cracks and redo all the tennis courts in town. So after working with our contractor on this particular one, it was going to be very difficult to fix this, to the point that even if we are going to have tennis courts there, those have to be torn out. So that asphalt is just not repairable. So that's the reason you're seeing that we're asking for this to be gotten rid of. We do plan on having a community meeting with the Flint people in the Flint area to see what they do want in that park. If they want the tennis courts back or any of that. We did a master plan several years ago, but it needs to be updated. But the goal here would be to put in the park what people in the community want and then start moving towards doing that. And Councilman Jackson, to your point about the Parkway Park, is we did talk about putting bollards in there close to the, where the road meets where the park is. And also that park, along with like Kerry Matthews, I do think we're getting to a place with both of those parks where we need to look at what do we want to put in those parks. So I think it needs to be a similar thing where maybe we have a community meeting and ask people for their opinion about what they'd like to see in those parks.
That's good that we're going to have that conversation. Stephanie and I have talked about, especially, I think that from my perspective, we needed to make sure that it was safe first for the kids there. Secondly, the equipment at Kerry Matthews, I see kids down there playing, but it's not good. It's not good, and it's not even safe, I would say, to be played on. So we do need to, even if we just go back with similar things, that's a conversation that Stephanie and I have had. I would rather see that than for us to go with where we are. I mean, leave what we have there. It's just, it's not safe. It's not enjoyable for the kids. But I do, if you go back through there in the afternoon, you'll see kids from time to time over there.
I do. And so we have a guy that we've actually scheduled 2 months ago to come and sandblast all that stuff, and we'll come back and paint it. And then some of it will have to be replaced. Like some of the stuff, the bearings are bad, and that bouncy thing, there's no fixing that.
Yeah. Besides the fact it's 1950s type.
Well, it is. But I think that one of the things we need to look at is once there's a decision made on the building, and I know you have folks right now that are going through that, is once we know what that looks like, is do a plan to put something, but we need to make sure we put it in a place that's going to make sense with whatever's going to be there in the future. So.
Okay.
All right, I think,
Yeah, and I talked to Jason briefly before this thing kicked off, and he's on the right track. There needs to be some surveys or something set out to figure out what is this facility going to be in the future. Because when you tear it all down, it begs the question, what's going to go up? And there's a fairly young community living out there now. A lot of Hispanics out there playing soccer on the weekends. The dog folks across the street are using it for training. I actually walked there today, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. But in addition to that, and goes beyond what we talked about with the Planning Commission, that 500-yard soda straw of where things happen, there's 3 new subdivisions just down the street from that park that rightfully so ought to have the similar facilities to Delano Park as they look at the future of how they're going to develop themselves, and the rec center as it pops up and develops itself. Because right now there's a sense that there's a haves and haves not. You're going to tear down this thing. The first time I've heard of it was at this meeting. And I had to ask some additional questions, so I wasn't sure if Flint Tennis Courts was right by my street. But, yeah, we got some work to do.
I think the spirit is in improving it, so, which I think is what your point is.
Well, actually, the spirit, as I read it, says I want to demolish it.
Because it's in disrepair.
Well,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take his question.
Tearing something in disrepair down is the first step to improving it. Resolution 24-232, intergovernmental agreement amendment with Decatur City Board of Education. Harmon.
Well, basically, this is just continuing the agreement we've got with the Decatur City Schools and Austin High and the tennis courts, and us. There's a lay down ground out there for the construction company, and this just extends that and clarifies that we'll make a payment as to the tennis courts and that kind of thing. So it's just continuing on the agreement we had.
Mike?
So, because I read both of the documents that are in that packet, and it's very unclear in terms of what this intergovernmental agency agreement is going to really do. Are we funding it out of the city, or are we allowing the Board of Education to fund this development?
So there, and Jason, you can jump in if you need to, that we had an agreement, it's been a year plus ago, where part of, we got some of their property, I think, and for the facility that's being built out there, the softball complex, baseball, softball, athletic field complex, they're letting us use some of that, some of their parking for overflow parking. And so we, I think, in return, paved a road right behind the football stadium for, at Austin's campus, and then basically pouring a pad for new tennis courts for the Austin High School team. Generally, that was it, and so now they're about to start that construction, from what I understand, for the tennis facility, and so we still have some. They might have to use some of our property for lay down, yard for equipment, and vice versa. That's basically what the agreement is.
In a storage building, that sounds like new
I'm
development.
Not sure.
There was a small storage building that was there. All this is doing is replacing that. It's just a 10 by 10 block building.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, any questions? Resolution 24-233, approve proposed quote for cleaning and mulching at ADM site.
Yes, council, this is for the, like it says, for the ADM site, and Brandon's already done quite a bit of cleanup and some lane clearing and stuff around there to make it look better. But this is city property, and what we would do is get somebody to come in and mulch it and get it cleaned up, and then we would add it to the contract and just have it mowed, just like we do the rest of the city properties after that.
All right, any questions? I think Mr. Faruqi had a question.
And to speak to the last, Jacob's correct as far as the courts, is they are going to go ahead and start the courts, is my understanding. The other thing about that is there's an area behind where that parking lot is where for us to bring our poles in for the lights for all those fields, we didn't have anywhere to stage them. So,
Are you talking about the tennis courts or which one? Flint?
Nope.
For the new ball fields, right, for the new ball fields that are being putting in, the poles and stuff for those lights.
And similar question, though, because where the tennis courts are in Flint, which I'm familiar with, I'm not familiar with the other facility.
Well, they don't exist yet. That's what they're saying.
Well, no, they do. They've got lights already, and there's a contraption. I don't know if it works, but they've got a lot of material up at Flint for.
Are you talking about at the Austin site where we're building the ball field?
He's talking about Flint.
Flint, oh, okay. Yeah, those are what we're doing.
So those are going to come down too.
Well, the ones that we said were going to come down are coming down.
Okay, and then we're going to have to rebuild all that wiring and everything to make sure that it's good to go in the future. Okay, now we're talking about ADM, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know anything about that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we discussed it before the meeting, so. All right, ordinances first reading. Ordinance 24-4592, declare surplus and authorize sale of 720 Sykes Street Northwest.
Yeah, Alan Stover, Community Development Department. We just had a request to purchase 720 Sykes Street, and we're just asking your approval to move forward.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Ordinance 24-4593, authorize the issuance of $5 million revolving line of credit pending MUB approval Monday, September 30th, 2024.
Council, Mayor. My name is Lisa Terry. I'm the business manager and CFO at Decatur Utilities. And this is the renewal of a $5 million line of credit with Renaissance Bank that has been in place for a number of years. The term is 2 years. It has a tax-free variable rate equivalent to the Wall Street Journal Prime minus 1%. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Mike?
Just trying to understand, what is the purpose of that?
So typically, this Municipal Utilities Board is MUB, which is Decatur Utilities, and they have that in place. Have you ever drawn on it?
No.
How long have you had it?
It's a number of years.
yeah. It just in the case that there was a project or something, if you want to speak to when y'all might use that, just in between maybe a board meeting that they needed to draw. But
Well, I heard a briefing earlier this year about a lift requirement someplace near the golf course, I thought. It sounded like very much multi-million-dollar requirement.
yeah, that all is completely separate. This would be more like almost operational, where if there was just immediate need that they needed to draw that, it's basically just it's almost like a reserve account for like some sort of emergency, but they've never drawn on it.
Yeah, we did have a specific list of capital projects that would be eligible to be drawn upon this, but we have never, and it's not in our current plans either.
Okay.
Access.
Does it cost us any money to get this? Or?
No, nothing to ratepayers.
Okay. Well, I mean, to the city of...
Well, that's what I mean.
Okay.
People who pay Decatur Utilities for utilities. All right, that's it for the end of the agenda. One thing, Herman, do you mind, and I see Phil here, we had some conversation 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Just kind of give me a brief update on the site. It's mainly Garth and Sykes Cemetery. I think we've made a little bit of progress, but if you
Yeah, we're Ruth Priest, of course, she's talked with him. Where we are is, and she can fill it, basically with Sykes, we're going to try to figure out a way, because it's very difficult with a number of people involved, to find out who could convey that to us. And we're working on a plan to just do some kind of a quiet title or something like that.
And then on Garth, we have a tree issue that I think you were going to ask for.
Right, and my understanding is that we will do that.
Okay. Phil, is that?
And then we're working on, and then we're working on trying to, there's an indication that there may be a trust representative, but there's other research that indicates that there's several different potential owners, but that's where we are.
I think we're making some progress.
We're making
on
progress,
getting
is the bottom
those,
line. But the tree, has that been done?
We did the work order on it, they went out and looked at it, so.
Oh, okay.
But I've asked this question before, though, Herman. We're looking for someone to convey Sykes Cemetery to us. And we've dealt with this for decades, actually.
That's right.
And no one has ever stepped forward to mow the grass or do anything else. Why would we not just move forward with an eminent domain type situation?
That's what I'm talking about, a quiet title proceeding.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah, that's.
But I mean, again, we're still looking.
I think that was on the other one. Quiet title, he was talking about was for Sykes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute, which is which now? Explain that again, which is?
Quiet title is
No, we're doing the quiet title on Garth?
Sykes.
Okay, all right.
Not yet.
Yeah. We may, but there's a better
We
option.
think we have potential owners at the Garth Cemetery. We just got to, there's multiple.
But we don't for Sykes, correct?
We do
Because they're
not.
running
So
together for me.
That's why we're going to try to do that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
We are going down that path.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move into our public comment. Sorry. Alan, did you have something?
I can explain it a little better.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. It's not easy to explain because it's not easy to understand.
Ruth Priest, Assistant City Attorney. When we've done the research, both families have extensive genealogies. The ownership of Sykes is the one where we're not sure who may own it because there's no wills that went through, would have to go through intestacy, and this is a long time ago. So we have a list of family members, and each time they have children and they move, you have to locate all of them. It's very difficult, even in this day and age, to track individuals down. So that's why, to quiet title, we would probably have to file a lawsuit in circuit court to quiet title. We have to ascertain as many as possible who might be potential heirs. We can't just go and say, if you're interested in this, come let us know. We think you might own it. Or if you think you own it, basically we have to do very much due diligence to ascertain as many heirs as possible so that we can give them notice that they may own this before the city tries to take ownership of it, in case someone does want it. That's very unlikely because they've not even, but some people may not know that they may have an ownership interest.
But you know, there's no immediate connection there whatsoever. I mean, because now, yeah, there might be family members from, 10th cousins or whatever down the line, but there was no immediate family relationship there. So I guess I'm still confused as to why we hadn't moved on
Just
that.
because there's no family relationship here that we know of doesn't mean
Not here in
legally.
Decatur. Not here in Decatur. I'm just talking about in general.
I guess I'm confused as to your question, because basically, we still have to find out who it is that would own that particular parcel of property. And initially, Solomon Sykes owned it. But after Solomon Sykes had children, they have children, and no one has any probate documents that are on file for the entire process of different lineages. You have to try to figure out who is in the family now, who is currently living, to find out who the ownership would be for the property. It's not an easy task. This is very difficult when you have wills and you have families who you have a great lineage or a genealogy to go by, but this has extended family members all over the United States. I've traced people to California, the Carolinas. There are individuals living everywhere. So you have to give them notice if it's their property. That's the problem. That's why quiet title is always that's the last ditch effort you use legally to try to ascertain the ownership.
I think that, I guess you're right. I mean, there could be distant relatives way down the line, but I mean, as far as that goes, we all could be related in this room. I mean, it could just go on and on and on forever. And I understand that it's extensive. But the fact is very simply that, years ago, probably 2 decades ago, we had one relative that was in her 90s, I think, at the time, who was basically an heir, if you will. And I'm sure that she's gone on to better places since then. But, for us to just continue, I don't know, I just don't understand why it's necessary, and maybe it is.
It's kind of like if you had property and something happened to you and your family wasn't able to be found, would you want the city to just take it, or would you want someone to find someone who was an heir to your property to have it? And that's what we have to make sure, that everyone's property is given, the ownership of it is to the family who may own it. They need to have that ability. We just got done talking about notice. This is giving notice. It's not easy. It's not a quick fix. And unfortunately, because the ownership was never during a time frame where it was digital, people move to other states and then they pass away, so it's probate records that are in other states. We are very blessed here in Morgan County that we have a probate judge who puts all of the documentation online. That is very unusual. I don't think anyone wants to pay me to go to North Carolina to go into a room and look up those records. So we do our best that we can here digitally, finding people. And I think sometimes there have been information that may be not intentionally incorrect, but I think sometimes word of mouth passes along that someone owns something, and that's not legally accurate.
I understand that. Okay.
So I think that's what, and in Garth, there's a trust that owns it, but trying to find out who, it's another old document. These are very old documents.
Well, I think the eminent domain question is, if there's a public purpose, we can get ownership.
And they're absolutely.
Well, that's, I don't know whether, the quiet title seems to be the more.
Okay. That's fine
It
as
gets
long
the
as
same
we're making some
result.
progress.
It gets the same result, and I think it's less expensive on the
We've
city.
dealt with this thing for what, 20 years now?
But it sounds like we've
25 years?
never taken this step.
Council basically has to make the decision of which way you want to go. We can't just decide, and the legal department can't just decide what we want to do.
And
That's just something we have to present.
I sent Herman an email 2 weeks ago, and basically, you and I have discussed this separately.
And we're happy to meet with y'all to talk about who we've narrowed it down to.
I think we just want to move the
Yeah,
ball.
we're gonna move forward. That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I understand you can't make the decision, but I guess, and long before you were here, is that, this should have, I mean, to me, it just seems like we should have come to an end point in this thing at some
The
point.
council actually did vote on
We did.
something.
We did on GAR.
It was to vote to go forward with whatever it needs to acquire it, but there was no specific determination of
And
what
that was like
method to use. That was
2012.
prior to me. I went back and researched to find it. It was in 2011 where the council just decided to go
Well-
forward with trying to acquire it, not necessarily a specific roadmap on exactly how to do that.
Back then, this cemetery was part of about 20-something acres. It would have to been subdivided off. We negotiated, but the person we were talking with died.
Yeah, but that was GAR,
But
that
now-
was Sykes. Is that correct?
The son, I talked to his son, but,
And was willing to donate the property.
well, I understand, but that's where
There's
we
some
get into
conflicting
some
information
conflict.
because they're saying that they own it and willing to donate it, but there's a trust that shows that it owns it. We don't know who the real owner is until the actual legal documents are presented, because unfortunately, we've had other issues in the past where people have said they own property, and when you look at the actual deeds, it's a little different than maybe what they thought or what was told or passed down. So we're trying to sift through all of that, and now there is an attorney with the trust, I believe, who we've been told is looking into who actually the owner is and if there is a deed out there that we can see.
Is there any kind of speculative time frame that we could be looking at? Can anybody even speculate as to how long we're looking at to?
To file an action or to get information?
File an action.
Like I said, this thing has gone, it's been decades now, literally. And I think the first time we really started looking at it with any real sense of energy was Mayor Fowler was the mayor. That's how far back this thing goes. So,
20 years.
I don't
Phil,
know.
if you can come to the podium.
When we
Yeah,
were,
we'll just have, we don't, we'll have
Yeah,
to see.
when we rely on
Mr.
other-
Wiley's been helpful, and he's gonna do it
Yeah.
again, so.
Well, I was just curious about what family members on GAR side had contacted us.
If we,
Because I contacted Vinci.
we haven't contacted family members until we don't contact individuals until we know exactly what the paperwork shows. If there is a will or something, I'm not calling random people saying, do you own this? And they say yes, and there's no paperwork. So if we have an attorney who says, there's a trust and I have the documentation, we're going to make sure before we call people in case they don't own something they think they own. That happens quite a bit. It's not as cut and dried. Legally, the probate world is not as easy as everyone may think it is to find the correct owner, make sure they're truly the owner and the type of ownership they have. It may be that they own it, and that would be great if they do, but according to the tax assessor's records, there's a trust, and according to the last document I found, there's a trust that owns it. So I'm not sure if they were beneficiaries of the trust. If they have the legal documentation, that's helpful. But right now, we've been told that someone else has that.
Who is the trustee?
I don't know the name of the trustee. That's just that the attorneys, this is John.
Yeah,
John Eister, I
John
believe
Eister
is-
Jr. has contacted his attorney to see what authority he has and who they say has potential ownership of this property. And it's different from who we talked about with.
And he's actually contacted his attorney, and he has sent us a copy of the deed that I had located that shows it's a trust.
Yeah,
So we're
it's
still
old,
waiting
it's
to see
old.
what the attorney's office shows up as
I
what they
think we're
have.
trying to move the ball down.
Let me just ask this one thing. Now, and we're going back and forth between cemeteries again. But the thing is that we know that there's not a will on Sykes, correct?
There was a will long ago, but then it goes intestate after that.
There was actually a will on Sykes?
It was Solomon Sykes, but he deeded it to his wife. And then she's the one who, I'd have to look at my paperwork because I have a stack of documents where I've traced it back. And I don't know if she had a will that was probated. It may be that her estate was intestate to her children, and then after that, no one had wills.
Yeah, see, I
So
was
then it's
thinking
there's all these different rules that go into play.
Okay. I was thinking there was not a will on Sykes, period, at this particular point.
There
I
was
thought
one
it all faded away.
long ago, and it could be that the property may have there have been graves found that are outside that actual parcel as well. So none of these are easy issues, and I know that just sounds like, but these are issues that take years in court to figure out when you do have names. Sometimes it's just we're working at trying to get it, and now that we have another person who actually has contact with the trust, maybe have an attorney who knows something, that's really beneficial. So they have contacted us last week, the end of the week, we've received that information. So that's on Garth, correct. But Sykes is still, we have a list, we have a list of people who are potential heirs. It's just a matter of knowing what's the best way to proceed, whether it's, which legal course y'all want to take.
Okay.
And that's going to require a discussion to weigh how many
A lot
people.
of these are running together. I mean, the Garth.
And the families are interconnected through marriage, so there are a lot of the same people involved in these. I mean, it's fascinating, the stories that are there, the history that is there. It's wonderful that we want to have these and the city maintain them. They are great for heritage, and having control of those would be wonderful. It's just a matter of legally doing it correctly so that no heir comes back later and says, I really wish someone had let me know. I may have taken over it. I mean, chances are they don't. This is an epic problem across the U.S. I've been to several seminars through the historic, some of the historic national associations, and everyone in all municipalities are struggling with this exact issue. What to do with cemeteries where you can't locate heirs, they're not being maintained, and you can't go on and do it because it's not the city property. We are not alone in this. This is a very rampant and hard to deal with scenario because there's no legislation or there's no laws out there on this, except for probate and intestacy and trying to figure out who owns it through a legal proceeding. So, sorry, I just didn't.
No, you're good.
I just wanted to explain a little bit more about it.
Okay, we'll keep working, Phil. All right, moving to public comment. We'll do 3 minutes. Yeah, go ahead, Jason. Yep.
Just one thing. So on the new rec center, we're hoping that the bids go out for that in November. But a couple things that we would like to get community input on is, one is the dog park, where the large dog park currently sits. That's where the building's going to be. So we've asked our architect to draw something that had some options in it to move the large dog park over to the other side of the small dog park. The other thing that I have gotten a lot of questions about is with the playground. Of course, there's 2 playgrounds there with Adventure Park and then the sand park that's there. Adventure Park was, of course, a community-done park. I mean, there's a lot of people, all the bricks and stuff that, people bought to help do that playground. So one of the things is that we will be putting something out. We've got people right now that are currently working to get a plan and get some options in those plans. And so what we'll do is we'll make those times public when people can come and discuss that and look at what we're going to have. But we did want to let everybody know that we're not just doing this, is we want your input, because at the end of the day, this is for what everybody wants there. We just want to put there what everybody wants. So, but we plan on doing that in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So I just wanted to go ahead. This will be the first time I've said anything about it, but I didn't want to until I knew the plans were close. So.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. All right, I'm just going to go down the list in order of Justin first on the list.
Well, since he's walking out.
Still a coward.
Sarah. Well, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, you skipped.
No. I just told her, but you're good. I was saying sorry to her. Yeah, I'm good.
You are?
Yeah.
A year ago, I came up here in good faith and asked for help. And instead, I got a number to the mayor's office. And he had made a comment
You
recently.
actually got a number to the insurance adjuster, which was worse, but go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, and when the mayor says that public safety is his number one priority, I kind of feel that that's not an accurate statement because my safety was put at risk, and he showed zero concern. So I just asked that he go back and redact that statement because his behavior is not exhibiting that. So, but he's not here. I mean, I don't know. Or something. But anyway, thank you. I have more to say, but I'm going to hold back. So, justice for Steve.
All right, thanks, Justin. Sarah.
Every time I get up, it moves. Okay. I'm going to read what Steve's 15-year-old daughter, Jada, had to say on the anniversary of losing him. I will send this to the mayor and the missing council members, a copy of this, because this is why Justice for Steve matters. September 29th, 2023, the worst day of my life. Today marks 1 year without you. 1 year feels like an eternity. Not one day has passed without me wishing you were still here. Everything has been different since you left. Me and you had a bond no one else would understand. I really miss our jokes on each other. We love to make each other laugh. I miss hearing "What up, Jada Boo" when I get home from school. I miss hearing you laugh. I miss seeing your smile. I miss seeing you at my sporting events in the stands cheering me on. I miss your presence. Life is so dull without you. I wish I could just have one more day with you. You have been in my life since 6 months, and it went from seeing you every day to not seeing you at all. I really miss you. As I get ready to dance, know it's for you. Everything I do is for you. I love you with everything in me, forever and always. We are over a year since Decatur Police Department murdered Steve Perkins. Only one person is being held accountable, and that is unacceptable, and we aren't going anywhere. Starting this year, we're even stronger. Justice for Steve Perkins.
Can I say something while you're coming up? Sarah, that was you reading that, it was intense then. But when she said it, in the tearful way that she said it, I think that everybody in the church felt her pain. And so I just want to say that, we feel her pain. We feel the pain of the family. I do. I can't speak for anybody but myself. But that was one of the most painful things that I've gone through, to see that little girl had to share that about the loss of her father. So.
Yes, that was very powerful that she gave that speech. Well, mine is to, who that's not here, the mayor. So it's been a year. He has absolutely done nothing. And I stand up here every week and talk about how he needs to resign. And I'm going to stand up here this week and I'm going to talk about how he needs to resign. But I'm also going to tell him, we have created strategies to help you resign. We can't talk to you right here, Mr. Mayor. That means we're going to 123 Church Street, and we're going to sit there every Sunday until we can see your face and talk to you. But just like you did last Sunday, you're going to run out, just like you do here, run out and go out the side door. You're going to have to see us. You're going to have to give us some answers. You're going to have to talk to us and quit running from us, because you're acting like a coward. You are a coward because you won't talk to us. So everywhere you go, we're going to be there. You go to the movies, we're coming. Wherever you go, we're going to be there. And that's why we was in the house of the Lord with you on yesterday. So what I'm saying is, Mayor, come down here and talk to us. It's a shame that we're pleading to talk to our mayor because he doesn't have the guts, I had to say the right word, to talk to us. And that's starting to get on my nerves. And then he wants to call us some terrorists, but you calling me a terrorist. What about those cops who did that to Jaden and Steve? What do you think about them? But I'm a terrorist, but we're terrorists.
We're not charged with anything.
That's right. So you need to clear that up, Mayor, and come and talk to us and go ahead and do us a favor and resign.
I first wanted to ask if any of you knew how the tow truck ordinance that was created, if it's being implemented?
Yeah, we had some questions about that kind of after it went into effect. Reached out really through the mayor and had a conversation with Chief Pinion to make sure that those there was a better process. And I haven't heard any complaints since then. So.
Okay, I might be making the first one. So a few weeks ago, a tow truck company stole a vehicle. This is factual information. Stole a vehicle from a location here and took it outside of the city limits and strapped it. Are y'all aware of that?
I'm sorry, outside the city limits and what?
Outside of Decatur city limits and strapped the car.
I don't know about that.
Okay, so that happened. We haven't heard anything about that. I'm probably the first person who said something about it.
Yeah.
If it comes out that the Falkville officer whose truck malfunctioned and hit a family at Chipotle, if it comes out that he was actually in the car, how do you think Decatur Police Department should be held accountable?
I don't know enough about it, but
I think it's at the point that it's time to clean house for sure, because we have bad apples that are preventing good apples from thriving. And what I mean by that is that you have an officer whose trucks malfunction, tore an iron gate to the ground, put a stroller in pieces, hit a little girl who had internal bleeding, and broken ribs? Yeah. And it just malfunctioned and rolled back. They took his word for it at the scene. He didn't go to the hospital to get blood tested. So how do we not know there was a proper, full investigation done? They came out the very next day, or maybe 2 days later, with a press statement. And Decatur Police was involved in that. That's concerning, right?
again, I can't speak to any details of that.
But it's concerning, right? Just the thought of it.
If there was obviously anything to hide anything, put it under the rug, yes.
From what I saw in the video,
which I haven't seen the video.
I've seen the video. And from what I saw in the video, it is very disturbing that we came out with a statement that actually said that it was a malfunction.
Mm-hmm.
That concerned me greatly.
Mm-hmm.
For someone to say that they were outside of the car and for it to move forward within 1001, 1002 after it stopped, for that person to have gotten back into that car, try to pull it forward, and then try to pull it forward again, then try to pull it forward again, it seems almost impossible.
That's right.
Maybe it's just because I'm slow these days.
Oh, no.
But it's really disturbing for me, for us to have come out with a statement so quickly without having better evidence.
That's right. It's to the point a year later that we need to sit down and talk about oversight. I want, even with Todd gone, because he's going, the next person in his spot needs oversight. And I think that's what you all need to start focusing on, or we're going to be back here, and it's going to keep being families being hurt and innocent civilians being hurt, but no one is being held accountable for their families being torn apart and them being hurt. That has to stop.
Thank you. Elena.
$365 days.
and I'm going to just start with this. Alabama Law Code 7-9A-609. A lender can accomplish a repo without the court's assistance or with the court's assistance. They can complete it without, as long as there is no breach of peace. Breach of peace includes the involvement of law enforcement without the borrower's permission or consent. Under Liability Code Section 25.5-5, the tow truck driver is actually responsible for any injury to any person after making contact with the vehicle. During the first encounter between Steve and this tow truck driver, there was a wrongful repossession due to the code I just read to you. During the alleged event, Steve was protected by his Second Amendment right being in his own front yard and also by the Castle Doctrine of the United States. During the second encounter, police de-escalation techniques in Decatur Police Policy 100.3b and Alabama Law Enforcement Agency Chapter 4 were not followed. Police Eighth Amendment excessive force was used. We get up here week after week, day after day, protest all the time, do what we can. There has been so much that's happened in this city in 1 year. Sprinklers on protesters, a newspaper article that says that the mayor told the chief of police to leave protesters alone after thousands of us had already been arrested. Footage of the memorial destruction still has yet to be released. Appeals have come out, but this city is so quick to, as soon as Kevin Jackson is on what he's on, they're going to release all of no policies that he broke because they don't have any, but they released his name the very next day. This city has still yet to officially release the names of the officers or the policies that were broken, and you continuously push off the appeals. Herman, you can never give us an update on Justin's house because y'all can never get that together. Over a year. This is going to cost this city a fortune, and it seems like none of you care. From protesters to this actual incident itself, to a gag order hearing, to Third Friday, to everything we've been through in a year, to a third-party review, y'all are cooked. Justice for Steve Perkins.
It's a Trevor Sullivan.
Hi, this is my first time to speak. I've been wanting to come up here for a while. I've been learning a lot about the city. I didn't know we only had 3 council members, and the mayor is basically useless.
Well, if you don't mind, if I can just speak to that.
If I can pause my time.
Yeah, I did. We do have 2, and one had a death in the family. If I were in his position, I would not be here, so I will say that. The other is, he's been deployed on the hurricane issue, so we do have 5. So just wanted to clarify.
I'm just trying to learn from what I've seen through all the meetings after the. Yeah, I've been wanting to speak for a while. I wasn't able to collect a bunch of notes, as y'all know. That's my little protester that could, and it's time for y'all to meet Big Brother Trev. I don't know what y'all doing. When it comes to that F-150, is it still the police department's message and the city council that the F-150 was like failing or in some capacity? Is the city council going to submit a letter to the FTC and the DOT that F-150s are causing a concern in the community? Because if that truck was a failure, wouldn't that be easier than the cop itself just apologizing for his own incompetence? Why is it that every time a cop does anything, it is retroactively made to be the right decision at the time? They will never be at fault for anything. They cannot apologize for anything. What are y'all doing? When it comes to the TPT's General Order 111.2, Section A, de-escalation, subsection 1, whenever possible, officers should allow an individual time and opportunity to submit to verbal commands before force is used. He had no idea the police were there. What are y'all doing? What message does it send to the community if a burglar breaks in their house and they're scared to defend themselves because they don't know if a cop is hiding around the corner? What are y'all doing? He was shot in his own yard for exercising his Second Amendment right. It's hard to argue that he didn't have a chance to prove his own papers. How is this not a violation of his Fourth Amendment right? After the mayor, and the prime example of why city council members need a second job in this city just to get by, how is it not they're calling for the ending of public comment and the ending of peaceful protest? How is it not a violation of the First Amendment? That's 1, 2, and 4. I don't know how you make the argument that the Third Amendment has not been violated when Todd Pinion's police department is an occupying force deliberately going after protesters for things that are not against the law. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. I want Todd Pinion out the door. What are y'all doing? This is the first time I've had to come up here, but it's been a year. What are y'all doing? Nothing. Thank you.
Thank you.
How y'all doing, man? I'm gonna emphasize on something you said. You said he had a death in the family. And if that was you, that you wouldn't be here either, look around. We all got a murder in the family, a death in the family. But yet we've been standing up here for 365 days straight, speaking up. Yeah, I've been missing in action. I got a question for the council. Did any one of y'all hear about me being shot?
I did. I think someone told me. Maybe you told me. Yeah.
Did you hear about it?
Just recently, yes.
Did you hear about it? Well, see, the city didn't hear about it because it was never in the paper. But as soon as allegations came with false allegations that I said that the police must die and that I threatened Hunter Pepper's family, my name was all in the paper, right? My daughter got bullied. I've had 7 emergency surgeries. I just had an emergency surgery Thursday. And I'm standing here in front of y'all because it's the 1-year anniversary of Steve, and I'm gonna speak up. Y'all forgive me. I'm a little hurt. But it's like this right here. I wanted some questions to the police liaison, and I wanted to talk to Chief, but we see he didn't stick around long enough. There's been allegations, and I've heard from the horse's mouth, that the city of Decatur cops was going around saying that I shot myself for attention. Kirby, Officer Kirby, I don't know if he's still with the force or not, but he was going back and forth to his home telling his child that I didn't deserve to come up here, or I shouldn't be standing in front of the council because I don't live here, and that I shot myself for attention, and all this other bullcrap that he had said. So this girl went to school bullying my daughter. So now my daughter's being bullied because the whole school's saying that I shot myself. So I did a live video explaining, these are the jeans I had on, and I haven't worn since I got shot. Do y'all see these holes in my jeans? For y'all that don't know, I got shot in my genital area, which knocked out a 1/2 inch of my urethra, split my sac, and the bullet is still in my leg. I had 5 emergency surgeries that night. I bled for 7.5 hours, did not die, did not need blood transfusion, nothing but God. I got out. September 18th, I just had another surgery, reconstruction of my urethra surgery and skin graft. A week later, they removed the bandage off of my urethra surgery. So they nicked a vessel. So Wednesday night, blood was leaking down into my bladder from my urethra and from my prostate. So I got admitted in the hospital Thursday morning at 7:55 with over 2 pans, hospital pans of blood clots in my bladder. Now, it took y'all 46 days to put an article in the newspaper that this man had shot me. Didn't go look for him or nothing until I vocalized what was going on TikTok, right? Then I went live with Kirby. I'm not worried about the bill. When I went live with Kirby about making false allegations saying that I shot myself for attention and causing my daughter to be bullied at her school. So that's what happened Thursday. I went up there to correct that Thursday, and my blood pressure got up because they called the cops, and then the cops was like, this is Mr. Orr, he has a right. So I started having those problems. It's like this right here. We sit up here for 365 days while our young brothers and sisters are being shot and murdered in the street. Y'all won't listen to us because you don't care until it's your family. I told y'all, everything I've said in the last council meetings have came to pass, remember? I told Tad, when you remove the shackles of fear off of people, then you got a problem. When you remove the veil off the eyes of the people, I said there was a cloud that was coming over this city. Did I not say that? I said I seen a rim with a veil, like a little portal, man, with the rim and the eyes around the rim of it, and Tab's face in the middle. And remember, 2 weeks after that, they said the cicadas that went up 13-year cycle and a 17-year cycle that has not emerged since 1803. And I spoke it before it happened. I'm here to tell each and every last one of you now, and the ones that's gonna watch this afterwards. When I said the wrath of God was up on you, you may not be able to do anything or want to do anything. We may not get justice from the system, but we will get justice from the Most High, Yeshua, and it's right around the corner. Y'all thought I died because there was 2 officers that stood in the courtroom, just city officers. Yes, they got it on recording. I'm gonna wait to release that. But was talking about me being shot and saying, well, did he die? And when the officer told him that I did not die, he laughed and was mad that I did not die. Oh, that's the one Bill ever ranting about Steve Perkins. Well, I've laid on the deathbed 3 times since then, and I'm still here. Thursday, I was losing 2 pints of blood at a time, and they didn't understand why I didn't need a blood transfusion and how I was still able to talk and be mobile. When I say God send you a messenger, you better heed that message, because we will get justice, whether it's by the system or by the wrath of God. So to all y'all, keep holding on the good fight, because I'm living proof that when it ain't your time, it ain't your time.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr.
Y'all got some coming.
Mr. Caruso.
How do you have confidence in Chief Pinion's ability to lead our police department? I attended the personnel board this week, or last week. There was no published agenda until you arrived, and there were insufficient copies of that meeting. Items 3 and 4 were incentive pay for field training officers and retention pay for the department at over $200,000. In addition to the nearly $20 million we're budgeting this year, 80% of that, which is for personnel costs, of which we currently only have 112 of 140 officers filled. The per capita cost for a police officer as authorized strength is 11% higher than Huntsville Police Department, the largest department down the street in northern Alabama or in the state. How do we feel we are getting 11% better protection and service? I discussed all this with the chief because he was luckily there at that meeting about the apparent inability for him to inculcate values like loyalty to the department and his subordinates, duty to their subordinates and the force, selfless service in accomplishing that which that needs to be done with their field training officers. To see that responsibility in training up-and-coming officers is an important task, and it should not be tied to a paycheck. The chief has no metrics or online surveys to say this is the quality of training that will fix our problems. None. After a police lieutenant responsible for school resource officers shot himself and another officer in an apparent negligent discharge, not accidental, negligent discharge, during quick draw training at the range, and on scene, the question of the day is, who determined that our police department needs quick draw training? That's beyond the pale of what I would expect my police department, especially a school resource officer, to be involved in. So we decided that quick draw training was needed. On-scene officers responding allowed a Falkville Police Department officer to leave the scene of a multiple injury single vehicle collision at Chipotle without conducting a test for intoxicants, nor properly impounding the vehicle, not to mention the use of excessive speed in running down a fleeing vehicle resulting in the death of a juvenile, not to mention the ambush of a citizen on his own property resulting in 17 shots fired with numerous errant projectiles striking nearby homes, not to mention the arrest of peaceful protesters, tasing of the same, doxing of the same by Decatur Police Departments, and allowing said same officer to retire with his gun and his badge, and it's still achieving gross procedural violations within the department, resulting in the city attorney representing the same at a gag hearing, which, oh, by the way, they lost. In the military, lack of confidence is sufficient to remove any officer. I keep hearing that members of this council say the chief is a great guy. I also keep hearing council members bewail that they have to put groceries on the table and that hiring and firing is the mayor's responsibility. All of this while the council continues to treat their duty as a part-time job. I asked the chief why he hasn't implemented his plan. His response, well, I'm waiting on green research. Come on, man. Where are the deliverables? When will the new advisory council nominations be made? And why are they constrained by a non-disclosure agreement, which Herman has not seen? Why isn't the board made public? How will the city reorganize itself to meet the chief's intent for improving crisis communications? What training for officer wellness is scheduled? Or is it to be only these pay incentives for $210,000? In effect, the price of blood. It is apparent that that the chief cannot and does not have the skill, knowledge, or ability, or he simply chooses not to. In either case, his leadership is no longer desired because it does not inspire confidence.
Justin Wheel.
All right, so I want to say thank you to Councilman Jackson for tackling the issue around Parkway Park. A few months ago, I emailed Councilman Pike about potentially renaming the park to Mae Jemison Park and potentially swapping the equipment out for some space, playground equipment. Is there any potential of that potentially happening in the near future, maybe within the next year or two?
As far as the equipment goes, they're looking at equipment now, looking at the pricing of that equipment. So yes, Parks and Rec is working with the equipment. I've not heard anything about the renaming.
Okay.
But you know, the equipment will be coming. Can't give you a time frame, but they're looking at the pricing on that now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Justin. Alvin. The one that before the overpass.
Evening, gentlemen, everyone. Was moved to chorus by something that I witnessed on last week, a week ago today, September the 23rd, with a Hispanic family at Chipotle, who, you know, so a few people have spoken about the Falkville officer who backed the truck up into the patio area. You know, he told me from his mouth that he was not driving the truck. I later saw video that showed differently, or what have you. Decatur police arrived on scene, as well as fire and rescue and EMS services. The youngest, well, there was an infant there who was about 6 months old. There was also an 8-year-old girl by the name of Luna. Her mother, Joaquin, and her sister Nidia, whose infant it was. Now, the baby stroller was actually crushed. Luna was under the truck, and her mother had a broken leg. And just to see like the lack of urgency surrounding those people, and I actually didn't realize all of this because in the moment, like I had my phone on recording, just because I know in those situations, that's what you have to do at this point, you know? So until going back and later reviewing the footage, I didn't realize a lot of things that I actually missed, like with sight. But there were conversations that were being had. There were people who were asking, you know, whether or not he was going to be given a sobriety test, and he wasn't. He said he was not in the truck, and the truck had just rolled back, but the front tire was busted, which, you know, means that it had to hit the curb at a pretty high impact. But what disturbed me the most was the lack of sense of urgency to the 7-year-old girl who had to be airlifted later, because they were actually asking those people to get in their cars and leave, basically saying that she had minor cuts and bruises.
Wait a minute, let's back up 1 second. Who was asking them to get into the car and leave?
I mean, they were talking to the, I guess it was rescue and EMS, you know. They were saying that she only had cuts and bruises, like that
Decatur employees?
That she was fine. They were also.
Oh, I think we do need to clarify that.
Well, see that.
You talking about the fire department?
Well, see that's the point. So I said when I was recording, you know, my phone is just recording, so all I hear is audio, you know. But they're and I know from hearing with my own ears from standing out there that they were saying, oh, she's fine, she just has minor cuts and bruises, but she's fine. The oldest daughter, which is the one with the infant kid, was actually asking, saying, no, like you need to look at her, more help, because she's on the ground, and this lady, I don't know her last name, but Becky, she was actually holding the girl. And on the footage that I have, she's holding her the whole time. Nobody else is assisting or touching her at all. They're just asking her questions. And there was another lady out there who said, no, they need ambulances. You guys need to get another ambulance out here because everybody needs to go to the hospital. Because I said before, the little girl was like under the truck. But they had, pulled her out or what have you. I had to climb under the truck like on elbows and my forearms to get her shoes from under the truck. But she's, to leave and for her to have like contused lungs, I think broken ribs, internal bleeding, and be airlifted, I think that's pretty serious of her not to have barely received any attention on scene. But what my major concern is that this is a public safety issue. I'm not going to say just because they were a Hispanic family, but they were being rude to those people. It was a lack of, Walter was also there. It was a lack of urgency to assist them. I am compelled to believe that had they been a different set of people, that the reaction would not have been that way. Now, you did have some people out there who were concerned, who seemed that way, but then you also had others who didn't. I can tell you that there was no real investigation done on with the truck or the officer driving the truck because I spoke with him. First he told me he was standing one place, then he told me he was somewhere else, and then I asked for clarity, were you in the truck? And he says, no, my transmission failed. Then I saw video later that showed him pulling away from like after he backed the truck up, like putting it in drive, like you see the gears move, and him pull away from it, and then stop and pull away again, and stop and pull away again. But again, Chipotle has video footage. I'm sure that the officers could have went in and retrieved that night or what have you. He left on his own volition. To me, these are public safety concerns. And that involve, again, the way that our EMS responds to things, our fire and rescue responds, the way that our police respond. They were more concerned with me videoing and getting away from the scene with a video camera than they were in attending to the people. And it's just unacceptable because those are children, And that little girl is 7 years old. And, Avani just turned 8. I have a niece that's 7. And I get it, he's a Falkville police officer, but again, our police were the ones who responded to that. They were in the city of Decatur. Those are citizens of the city of Decatur. And I think that everyone deserves to be treated fairly, especially when it comes to medical attention. Yeah.
Families are telling us that they're getting conflicting stories from the ED, which is
I got you.
All right.
Is Lisa Bradley here? Do y'all have anything?
I do. I've got one more thing. I've spoken with several people about continuing our District 1 meetings, and we will get back to that. For the first 24 years that I was on the council, we had community meetings every month scheduled and pretty much held that. Since COVID, we've not done that. The community has come back and they've started trying to see if we can do it again. So we're going to start that again. It was always scheduled for the first Tuesday of the month at Turner Searles, but we didn't get notice out like we wanted to, so we are tentatively scheduling for next Tuesday, the 8th at Turner Searles at 6 p.m. So we will get notices out, or Facebook and other people spread it as well, but we are going to restart our community meetings where we're meeting once a month. And our purpose, when Michelle Gray King and I meet with the public, is not necessarily to talk as much as to listen. Our responsibility is to listen to the people of our community, to make sure that we are trying to address the things that are important to the people who we represent. So if you have questions or concerns or things that you want to share with us, that might be a great time to do it. So we are going to start our community meetings, again, tentatively, next Tuesday, not tomorrow, but next Tuesday at 6 p.m. at Turner Searles.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thanks.